Well, the Trans-Canada Trail was a great project.
Launching a brand in today's market requires innovation and a clear sense of purpose.
Natural Bliss, another great project inspired by two sisters.
Like a lot of businesses, they doesn't even have a website, but they are very actively doing business on social media.
The impact of acculturation and what that did from brand selection, from kind of those drivers of brand choice. And through that, we really wanted to uncover a white space opportunity.
Use this discussion as a springboard to innovate and assess how your brand connects in this dynamic digital age. Welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast, where we shine a spotlight on the backbone of our economy, small and medium-sized enterprises. This is your host, SK. In today's episode, we delve into the world of branding and the strategic importance of building brand value for SMEs. With the marketplace more crowded and competitive than ever, understanding how to carve out a unique brand position is vital for any business aiming for growth and longevity. Joining us today is Vince Guzzi, the managing partner of What International, a renowned integrated retail agency that has been redefining the retail landscape for over 5 decades. Join us as we explore Vince's insights into building lasting brand value in the SME sector. Good morning, Vince. Welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you.
We are all very excited to dive into your journey and uncover the nuances of brand value creation in today's market. Now, Vince, let's start talking about building brand value for small businesses. The landscape for small businesses is evolving rapidly, with brand value playing a pivotal role in their success. From your perspective, why is brand building, creating a brand value is critical for SMEs in today's market?
Yeah, I think building brand value is the keystone to the success of any business. But certainly, when you look at it in the context of today's marketplace for small, medium enterprise, it's a necessity, not a luxury. If you think about how complex, the market is right now, it's a very noisy place. And certainly large corporations have the resources to dominate the media channels. But when you think about, in the past, small, medium enterprise saw that as a very expensive endeavor to undertake. Not so much so in today. With social media, it's very easy to build brand value without having the large advertising and marketing budgets. So certainly you don't need a brand strategy to launch a business. But over time, for scalability and for ensuring continuity in the business, that's where the brand value really starts to play a role in as your acquisition costs, as your retention costs continue to increase and become more and more of a challenge, the brand really kicks in and offers up that extra little bit of effect to be able to do that successfully.
Right. As you rightly said, Vince, social media has helped a lot of businesses to launch on social media itself. A lot of businesses, they doesn't even have a website, but they are very actively doing business on social media.
For sure.
Yeah. And can you share an example of how an SME successfully built its brand value under your guidance?
Yeah, we've done some work a few years ago for a small Hispanic food brand in the southern U.S. And, their beginnings were a mom and pop business that, over time, certainly started to play in a very complex landscape. A lot of Me Too copycat brands. And over time, they started to see share declining, the customer acquisition costs going up. So they clearly needed to understand where to go next. So we had to really delve deep into the consumer landscape and really understand the emerging trends. In the U.S. in particular, there were a myriad of different groups of subsegments of Hispanics. So we need to understand the impact of acculturation and what that did from brand selection, from kind of those drivers of brand choice. And through that, we really wanted to uncover a white space opportunity. And what we did was uncovered a place to go that, not only represented an opportunity to address their current core customer, but also opened up an opportunity to move more into the mainstream landscape. And to do so, we really needed to understand, we landed on an attitudinal platform, all built around this idea of togetherness. And a lot of the segmentation work we did, really looked at uncovering a core consumer, which we called the fusionista. The fusionista is a second-generation bicultural Hispanic. And they were the segment that we had identified as being the ambassadors to moving the brand into the future. So, we embarked on a brand development process. We landed on a tagline, "It's better when we're together." And then we developed a full 360 brand campaign to be able to launch the business effectively. And it has been effective. I mean, I think in the first 6 months, they blew all the KPIs that you would imagine out of the water. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
been
great.
successful.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thanks for sharing those examples with
Thank
our
you.
audience. Your insights offer a clear roadmap for SMEs looking to carve out a strong brand presence in a crowded market. As we delve into the significance of brand value for SMEs, I invite you to take a moment and reflect on the essence of your own brand. What does it stand for? How does it connect with your audience? Vince's journeys and insights remind us that building a brand goes beyond logos and taglines. It is about crafting a story and experience that resonate deeply with your own customers. Let this be a catalyst for you to reevaluate your brand's impact. Consider how you can further enrich your brand's in narrative and engagement to not just meet but exceed the expectations of those you serve. Now, let's discuss about the components of a brand value. Brand value is multifaceted and encompassing various components that contribute to its overall impact. Are there specific components that are particularly crucial for SMEs when building their brand value?
Well, there are. I think there's a lot of advantage for small, medium enterprise right now. Large corporations actually want what small and medium enterprises already have. And larger corporations have to work harder to either fabricate an advantage or work harder to deliver something that is credible in the eyes of the end user. And the end user in this case could be a consumer, it could also be in a B2B context. When you look at the long tail trend, and the perceptions around small, medium enterprise, certainly they're poised well to deliver things that are perceived as more authentic, more genuine. There's usually a story that's engaging that consumers can engage in a more relevant and personalized way. Personalization is a big trend right now. And consumers are really reevaluating the way they look at brand relationships. It's less about the badge value, more about, do we have shared values? Because they want that type of relationship. And again, the perceptions around a small, medium enterprise is that they're a little closer, they're a little bit more flexible, and they're a little bit more responsive to be able to meet the needs. There's a third one, which is all around partnership and community. And again, just the sheer perception that smaller enterprises are more accessible. They're not governed by large organizational structures. They're not governed by, strict KPIs, which are a lot of limiting factors. For a larger corporation, the smaller and medium-sized enterprise is way better poised. And it's seen as such in the eyes of the end user.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are two important things that a small business owner should take care of, as you said. It's the partnership with the community and personalization. They play a key role in building a brand value.
Huge.
Now, Vince, how do these components differ from when applied to large enterprises versus SMEs?
I think they differ in the delivery. I think, again, if we work off the premise that small, medium businesses are seen as more nimble, more flexible, a lot of it is also believability. Let's take local. Local's a big trend right now, and it's a lot more difficult for a large corporation that is either a national business or a multinational corporation to claim that they're an expert in local. So they have to work a lot harder to get that believability factor to work in their favor as something that they can build brand value against. I think the other thing is also just living the brand values. It's a lot easier in a small, medium enterprise for the employees to live that every day. In larger corporations, it's a little tougher, beyond the mantra or the decree that sits in the lobby. They're just a little bit more distant in terms of living the brand values every day. And I think that intrinsically fuses a different cultural undertone in small, medium businesses that actually could work to their advantage.
Thanks for shedding the light on this important topic. Understanding these components sheds light on the tailored approach needed for SMEs to elevate their brand effectively. Before we navigate the new rules of engagement in our increasingly digital world, let's pause to appreciate the evolving landscape of communication and connection. The way in which we interact with our audience today are vastly different from even a decade ago. This evolution offers us unprecedented opportunities to engage with our customers in more meaningful ways. As we prepare to dive deeper with Vince into these modern strategies, Think about your current engagement efforts. Are they as effective and impactful as they could be? Use this discussion as a springboard to innovate and assess how your brand connects in this dynamic digital age. Now let's discuss about the rules of engagement. The digital age has introduced new rules of engagement for brands, vying for customer, consumer attention. In the context of today's complex and noisy landscape, means like what specific rules should SMEs be aware of, to win the battle of brands?
I think the most important one is keeping a perspective on all the component parts that make up the whole. There's a lot of pieces that define the crown jewels of a business, and these crown jewels all have value. So understanding what those are, and then properly setting up and managing your brand ecosystem, like understanding all the different touch points that you have at your advantage, respecting the fact that not all touch points are created equally. They all play a very specific role, and being able to then align those kind of core values of the business against each of those touch points becomes very important. I think the second is internal alignment. A lot of the most successful work that we've done happens when you've got alignment from the top, right from the CEO, C-suite down. And with that type of commitment to that employees see, that the world sees, that the consumer landscape sees, I think it delivers a different set of criteria and a different level of credibility. When you have that in place, everything else will fall into place.
Right.
I think the third is ensuring that the job of a brand is never done, right? And nor is it only the responsibility of the advertising and marketing department, which is often, how it's perceived. It really needs to have that top-down approach. The last thing is really looking at a brand management system to ensure that you're keeping an eye on the prize all the time so you don't get caught off guard. And also that you're able to manage it in an iterative fashion. So you're constantly incorporating new insights about the end user, any changes in the competitive landscape. There might be new dimensions that come into play. So all those things, if they're factored into real time, it really creates a continuous, very powerful approach to brand building.
Right. And means how has your organization, What International, navigated these new rules in a recent branding project?
I'll reference one. Not so recent. It started 13 years ago, but certainly it's one that we continue to support on an ongoing basis. And this is with a client of ours in the Northeast in the USA. So they're a mid-sized regional grocer who was facing a number of competitive challenges as well as a number of pressures on their primary and secondary customer base. So they came to us and their ask was a tactical one. I need a Band-Aid approach to be able to resolve my issues. But when we stared at the problem a little more deeply, we realized that the issue was really a strategic one, not so much a tactical one. So we embarked on this path of repositioning the business and the brand, which, was a large-scale endeavor, but really allowed us to study and identify, what is that proper toolkit that needs to be built to be able to sustain the success of this business. And that toolkit involved multiple touch points, that involved a next generation store concept, something that was a little bit more future oriented to engage the next generation consumer. It looked at a new name, a new identity, refreshed packaging, a repositioning of their private label offering within, communication strategy, new messaging propositions. So we had the toolkit in place. And to this day, we're continuously scrutinizing it to ensure that it remains valid. And that positioning has really led them to regain what was lost and put them on a path for growth, which has been really nice.
Yeah. As you rightly said, Vince, adapting to these new rules is essential for any brand looking to stand out and connect with its audience. Thank you for tuning into the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. We are going to take a quick break to catch our breath. Stay with us and we will be right back with more insights and stories from the heart of a small business.
You dreamt big. You made the leap. You and your "we're not stopping at small" business. Doesn't matter you've never done it before. You unlock those problems. You adapt to change. You learn to evolve. You're pioneers in challenging times, finding your own frontiers. Wherever you e-commerce, UPS is with you. So nothing is going to hold you back.
Nope.
Constant Contact delivers the marketing tools your small business needs to keep up, excel, and grow. Constant Contact, helping the small stand tall.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. We hope you are as excited as we are to dive back into today's topic. Let's continue our journey into the inspiring world of small business, full of innovation and passion. Now, let's talk about emotive brand strategies. The challenges of connecting with a diverse set of stakeholders requires a deep understanding of emotive branding strategies. Could you delve into the complexities of applying brand development principles to projects like the Trans-Canada Trail?
Well, the Trans-Canada Trail was a great project, but the complexities were twofold. First off, when you're dealing with a product or service, you've got something tangible there to be able to build upon. In the case of the Trans-Canada Trail, you've got land, you've got air. So a lot different in terms of defining an appropriate platform from which to build a brand strategy. Secondly, the challenges was the complexity of the stakeholder group. The stakeholder group was diverse, all coming from different points of departure, all with different needs. But ultimately, we needed to land on something that had universal appeal. So that was the challenge. And if you think about the stakeholders in that particular project, it ranged from large corporations, local, regional, national levels of government, small, medium-sized businesses, volunteer groups, end users. It was very complex. So the goal was there to identify what is that universal insight, that emotive psyche that we wanted to tap into. But the bigger job was really landing on something that would engage those stakeholders in such a way that would unlock more funding to be able to continue the next leg of development of the trail, and more volunteer groups to be able to support that development. So it was quite complex in that respect.
Yeah. Following on, can you shed light on the universal insight you uncovered that resonated across such a diverse audience?
Yeah, so the universal insight really played on two things. One is the promise of personal discovery against the backdrop of Canadian diversity. And the multifaceted nature of that idea as a starting point was fairly rich if you think about what the trail represents. So the trail expands from coast to coast. I think it's the longest trail in the world. And in doing so, it really meanders through national wonders, abandoned rail lands, small villages, vibrant city hubs, cultural icons, and the list goes on and on and on. So just the nature of the trail itself really represented a microcosm of what Canada represents: cultural diversity, regional diversity, national diversity. So we felt that there was something there that when we scrubbed that against all the different stakeholder groups, we felt that there was something to build from. And then we landed on this idea of unlimited journeys of discovery. Because in addition to the complexity or the multiplicity of the trail, the experiences within were also varied. Because depending on whatever your mindset was that day, whatever objective you wanted to achieve when you step foot on the trail, that same leg of trail could deliver different experiences every time. So we landed on this tagline, "Your trail, your journey," which really was very empowering. From a stakeholder perspective, no matter which way they came into the discussion, they saw benefit in what they were trying to achieve personally. So it was a real kind of well-rounded platform from which to build the brand.
Yeah, I really like the line, "Your trail, your journey." It's very appealing, right?
Yeah, very good.
And that's what the brand value involves: appealing to the consumers or the people to whom they are targeting and enjoying. Now, Vince, I think this approach highlights the power of emotive branding in unifying and engaging a brand spectrum of all stakeholders. Now, let's discuss about the innovation. Launching a brand in today's market requires innovation and a clear sense of purpose. Can you talk about the brand development work for Nature Bliss Infusions and the challenges of introducing a feel-good product with purpose?
Yeah, Natural Bliss, another great project inspired by two sisters that had this vision to solve a problem. And the problem was, in their homeland of Colombia, 40% tropical food waste. You can imagine, so they saw that as
40% is a huge number, right?
Huge number,
Yeah.
huge number. So they saw that as a misfortune. They saw that also as an opportunity. So out of that, was the birth of this 2-in-1 product, which was a beverage with dehydrated edible fruits in there,
Mhm.
and hence the feel good project product with purpose. So they were able to do that, and what we did is really help them bring that idea to life, and we did that through, again, understanding the competitive context. You can appreciate teas as another category that is extremely busy. A lot of varieties, a lot of products that look the same, that position and present themselves the same. So we needed to really disrupt. We needed to break the conventions and really come at it very differently, to ensure that the brand was able to, with a small budget, really make some noise and get noticed and get credit for what they were trying to do.
Okay. And while working on this project, what strategies did you employ to ensure this unique beverage snack stood out on shelves and captured customer interest?
Yeah, so the first thing was be big, be bold. So the packaging itself, took a lot of cultural cues. Colombia, very colorful. You look at their parades and their festivals and all that. It's a very vibrant culture. So we want to ensure that the packaging took notes from that, but the design was very, very disruptive, and it was designed as such, as I mentioned. The other thing was really understanding a lot of the narrative and how we wanted to tell that story, where it appeared across those touch points. So packaging was a key point of contact, given that the launch of the brand had small budget, so we couldn't really invest in a lot of mainstream advertising. So the packaging was a big part of the big part of the solution, big part of the product launch. We also looked at the marketing materials to ensure that they were consistent in terms of the role they played in supporting the package. So when people came across, the different aspects that we were developing, they started to be able to stitch very simply the story of what made this thing unique and different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, packaging is very, very important. What is the key piece of advice for small business owners? I'm talking about local entrepreneurs who are planning to launch their own products when it comes to packaging.
Well, when it comes to packaging, I think the big thing is getting the story right. I mean, the packaging in and of itself is an advertisement. It's a billboard. And it is an important point of contact because it's probably one of those things that people become most intimate with, right? They're looking at it, they're staring at it, they're picking it off shelf. You want it to be noticed, you want it to break through, and you want it to engage. In some categories, that package then continues its legacy in people's homes, right? Is there the pride factor in displaying that product on the counter when you have guests come over, or do they quickly hide it because they're embarrassed by it? So there's a number of roles in which packaging does play. So really understanding kind of the proposition, how it needs to be conveyed on pack, and really in a hierarchy fashion, delivering that messaging in the order that is important to the consumer. So in food, naturally, nutritional value, what kind of health-based proposition are you making? Where does that reside? In non-food products, it's a different kettle of fish, so to speak, but no, ultimately the principles are the same in terms of how you approach it.
Thank you so much for sharing your advice when it comes to packaging with our small business owners. Vince, before we conclude, could you offer a piece of advice to small business owners looking to build or enhance their brand value in the current market?
Yeah, I would say identify those 2 or 3 things that are extremely important to your business, those 2 or 3 things that fundamentally add value in a unique and different way. Support it wholeheartedly and keep at it. I always say steady rain soaks deep. So that consistent approach and that commitment, again, top down, will ensure the success over the long run.
Thank you, Vince, for joining us today and sharing your profound insights with our audience. It was a great pleasure hosting you today.
Same here. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. All right. We especially appreciate our partners, including our exclusive banking partner RBC, exclusive shipping partner UPS, exclusive accounting software partner Xero, and exclusive email partner Constant Contact for their continued support. Thank you for tuning in, listeners. We hope today's episode has inspired you to think critically about your brand strategy and the unique value you can bring to your customers. Remember to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine by visiting our official website CanadianSME.ca for more engaging content and actionable insights. Until next time, keep striving for excellence in your brand efforts and continue to make a significant impact in your communities.